Welcome everybody. We've got some live people here, and those of you guys who are watching this as a recording, hopefully you'll come to one of our live classes soon. I'm Sue Hitzman, creator of the Melt Method, and tonight we are going to be getting on our feet doing some of the techniques standing. But before we do, we are going to do a rest assess, and I would definitely say you need your roller. If you have a half roller, it might come in handy for some of the techniques, but not necessarily. You definitely need a melt resistance band. If you have your balls with you as well, we are going to be doing a mini foot treatment, because if we're going to get on our feet, we might as well do that as well. So I'm going to have you guys start on the floor, and we are going to do a nice body scan assess, and I have this brand new setup. Let's see if it works. If I go like this, oh, look at that. It just zooms itself in. It's so awesome. Okay, so go ahead and lie on your back with your palms faced up and your arms and legs extended. We are so high tech tonight. All right, so we're going to do our basic assessment, but we're going to really kind of be short here. So I want you to give yourself permission, go into your body and sense what you feel. I want you to notice your masses and spaces, and the biggest things I want you to notice are the 4 most common imbalances. So if we have a lot of unnecessary tension or compression along the spine, when you lie on your back, instead of feeling the torso, the whole rib region relaxed and weighted to the floor, you'll feel most or all of your back weight is up on your shoulder blades. You will also notice that you have a high tensional lift in your low back. Instead of the low back curve being from your belly button down to the pubic bone on the back side of the body, you'll feel an excessive arch all the way through your torso. So notice if you feel that. In your pelvis, this is the thing I really want you to pick up, is what does your pelvis feel like on the ground? If I have a cumulative stress living in my neurocore, I'm going to feel a lot of pressure on my tailbone rather than 2 evenly weighted butt cheeks. And I might also notice that the back of my thigh masses are off the floor instead of on. So do the back of your thighs feel on or off the floor? Is your tailbone digging into the ground? Notice those things in your lower body. I want you to key into your autopilot, divide yourself into a left and a right half, and just begin to notice the entire left side of your body from ear to heel, and then the entire right side of your body, ear to heel. Do you feel balanced from left to right? Or does it feel to you like one entire side of your body feels longer or more weighted? Sometimes I even feel a little side bent in my body, so just notice what you feel. Tonight I actually feel pretty good. I did some work today already on melt. Let's do one more assessment. Turn your head left and right. Use one more movement assessment here. Do you have limited range or pain to turn your head from left to right? Right? We're in this relaxed state. Hopefully we can gently turn our head with no pain. Okay, so now that you have your first assessment, let's go ahead and take our roller behind the back of our thighs. And we're just going to do a little bit of technique here just before we get on up. We're going to work on the back of our legs. I want you guys to go ahead and relax your legs on down. And we're going to begin with a little bit of back thigh shearing. Because even though we are going to, when we stand up, we are going to do a forward bend assess. And hopefully the hydration that we'll create here will actually give you a better forward bend than what you're familiar with if you do melt on your own. So remember, with shearing, you're pinning the skin against the roller, and you're moving your legs kind of like your thigh bone is a rolling pin on flesh that's being left behind. If you want, you could even rest one leg off to the side and just use one leg at a time. And for any of you guys who have any type of back issues, feel free to take your hands, tuck them underneath your hips. Sometimes that really helps with the movement, decreases pressure to the back. If you're working on one leg at a time, go on over to the other side. If you're choosing to work on both legs at the same time, just keep going. Okay, so once we've done that on both legs, just go ahead and let your legs relax for a second. I always like to just wiggle my legs, just kind of roll my legs in and out, or even let my butt kind of wiggle a little left to right. That's a nice, easy, very passive way to create a little shear, right? And don't really have to work very hard. I'm going to wait there for a second, give the tissue a moment to adapt. We're going to move that roller down just a little bit into the middle of our thighs, and we're going to start all over again. Nice, easy twisting action. Now remember, I'm giving you guys the option. Okay, you could do it how I'm doing it, both legs at the same time, or you could let one leg either bend and put your foot on the floor, or drop it out to the side and just work on one leg at a time. For me, I like working on one leg at a time. I feel like I can grab the skin and really pin it a little bit more effectively. And of course, if you're not on camera, when I'm doing this and I'm watching television, I'm usually in my underwear. I don't really have pants on. It just gives me a little bit more of an effect. Again, if you're working on one leg at a time, go ahead and try it on the other leg, just creating that little pinning and twisting. Noticing for sensitivity, notice if one side feels maybe a little thicker or stiffer, or if it feels sensitive to the touch. And again, let's go ahead and just bring both legs back to the middle and maybe give the legs a little bit of a wiggle. Or again, you could even just wiggle your booty a little left, right. And then same thing, we're going to pause here for a second. I want you guys to bring that roller down just a little bit lower, and we're going to come right above the knees. And on this one, if you can, I do want you to do it one leg at a time. I'm going to start with my right leg. And again, I'm going to give you two options. You could either put your foot on the floor and do this motion, or you could drop your leg out to the side. Whatever is more comfortable for you is the position I want you to be in, right? So nice, easy little twisting action. And then we're just going to pause here for a second, and we're going to stay on this right leg. We're going to get on the lower outer part of your thigh. The best way to get into this pose is to bend your knees, roll yourself on your side, and come halfway up so that you can put your forearm on the ground. And what I want you to see is it kind of looks like the side of my knee is right on top of my roller. So try to get yourself to that same position. And then you're going to kick your legs out ahead of you so that you're kind of angling your legs a little bit. You're going to take your top hand to the ground, use your core, lift your body up, use your feet, and begin to glide. Now listen, gliding is small and it's not going to feel great here, but the secret of this one is to soften your knees a little bit. Try to lean a little into the forward hand and then come on back over to your side. And again, that might feel not so great, but again, find a spot you can just tolerate for a second. Go ahead and rest your body down and drop your body all the way on down. Now, once you're here, you could either keep your legs stacked and you could create a direct cheer by rolling your leg in and out. If that's too intense, you could take the top leg off and you could just roll the leg, just a little rotation. You could also pin the skin and just kick it forward and back, kind of like what we just did with the back thigh shear. Or if your legs are not stacked, you just bend the bottom knee. If you want, you could add a little bit more pressure and put your other leg atop the opposite side. Same thing, we're just going to pause here for a second, give the tissue a moment to adapt, and then take your time and roll onto your back. Okay, so you're going to try that on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and spin myself around so you guys can still see me here. So same thing, you're going to take your left leg and we're going to create that twisting action on the back thigh. Now remember, I'm giving you two options. You could either have your right foot on the floor or you could drop your leg down. Same thing, just a nice easy twisting action. And then same thing, pause there for a second. Just let that pressure sink into the back of the thigh. Then bend your knees, roll onto your side, and bring your forearm down onto the ground. Okay, so now just be mindful here. Don't put pressure on your elbow. Try to find your forearm on the ground. Top hand's going to come down. Again, you're going to kick your legs forward. I kind of feel that's like a piked position. So my legs are out ahead of me a little bit. Use your core, and as you lift, watch me, don't roll up. Try to stay really close to the knee and just lift your hip and then use your toes on the ground to move that roller up and down the most lowest part of the outer thigh. So as close to the knee as you can get. And the movement is, I always say, about the width of your hand, so small. Now remember, we're going to try this, softening your knee. Can you lean forward a little bit? I'm seeing some faces up there, I'm sorry. And then come back to the side. And then same thing, we're going to get smaller and smaller. We're going to stop on a spot, set your hip down. You're going to outreach your bottom arm, rest your head back down. And again, I'm going to give you a couple options. You could roll your whole body forward and back to create a direct cheer. I could also keep one leg off the bottom leg. So if that's too much pressure, here's your option. Remember, I could even just kick the leg forward and back, sort of pinning the skin and creating that twisting effect like I did on the back thigh. Or I could stack my legs. I could take both legs for a little walk. Or again, if I'm just using one leg, I just bend and straighten the bottom knee. No need to move the top leg. And then same thing, we're just going to pause there for a second. Take your time, roll onto your back, and let's sit ourselves on up, and let's take that roller underneath our pelvis. So you're going to go ahead and sit yourself atop your roller. And then once we're here, let's get everybody with me. Perfect. Okay, so take your time, and when you come on up, you're going to start gliding your deep hip. And I want to get a little bit of hydration into the pelvis because, again, we're going to do quite a bit of standing techniques. We've got 3 standing lower body techniques and 2 standing upper body techniques we're going to do today. Now, once you get your glide going, let's get on to your SI joint and your tail triangle. So what I like to do is I take my hand just as wide as my roller. I put it way back behind me. I tuck my pelvis, I scoop my hips, and then I outreach the other hand. So I've got my hands just as wide as that 3-foot roller. And listen, as you're gliding, just think about it. Your hands and feet are light on the ground. They are light on the floor. Use your core and just try to navigate your body weight against the roller. Tip your knees a little bit over to one side, and then come on back to the center, and then let's go over to the other side. And then let's come on back to the center. Let's tip back towards me again, and this time come on down onto your forearm, and let's get into our side hip, because some of the techniques that we're going to be doing today are going to be working right directly on this region. So kind of pay attention to what you feel here. A couple of options on the glide. I could be gliding with both of my feet together. I could open up my feet. I could drop my leg out. So the side hip is pretty big, so go ahead and explore the whole area. And if you find an area that feels tender, one of our friends who's here live, Pam's got a little bit of a hip issue. So Pam, this is the area I would be exploring, because if you're finding sensitivity here, this is probably the culprit to why you have front hip pain, right? So I'm going to stop on a spot that I feel is tender, and I'm going to go ahead and clam that leg in and out. I could also straighten out my leg. I'm going to roll my body forward and back. And remember, I could also pin the skin, and I could twist the flesh forward and back. Just really depends upon which feels good for you and what one you feel you can do well. Wait there for a second. Use your core. You guys can just bring your body back up, and again, bring your hands back behind you, and let's glide again on that tail triangle. Angle our knees over to the other side, and then drop our forearm down on the opposite side. And then same thing, I could have my feet together and glide into my side hip. I could open my foot base out if I feel like I have better control. I could even not use the leg that I'm working on and glide this way. So I've got a lot of options on how I want to navigate my body. Again, I want to find a spot that feels sensitive. I'm going to stop on that spot just above it, and I'm going to clam my leg in and out. Or you could straighten out your leg. You could roll your body forward and back. Or again, I could lean into it. I could pin the skin, and I could create the twisting action. So I'm giving everybody the benefit of the doubt here, hydrating the body before we do any standing work. Again, just bringing some fluid flow into the pelvis. We're going to pause there for a second. Take a nice focused breath. Use your core. Take your time and come on all the way up. So we're going to go ahead and stand ourselves on up. So come on up with me. And I'm just going to make sure everything is okay with you guys. Yes, okay. So come on up and grab your ball, because we are going to need that nearby. Now again, because we're here for an hour class, I want to make sure that we can get everything that I want to do with you guys in today. So the first thing we're going to do is just go ahead and stand up with your feet about hip width apart, and we're just going to use another movement assessment. Okay, so just go ahead and forward bend. Just take your time, round yourself down, and I want you to notice a couple of things. Number one, how far down did you go? Right, so can you bring your body down to the, can you bring your hands down to the floor? And the other thing I want you to notice is the tension on the back of your legs. How much tension do you feel? Okay, so just try to remember what that feels like. Take your time, round your body all of the way on back up again, and grab your large softball. And we're going to start with a little bit of just easy compression. So I want you to put one of your feet about a foot or so away from your ball. Bring your forefoot in front of the ball, and nice and slow, you're going to land the ball at the center of your foot, and we're going to start with a little bit of gentle compression at the center of your foot. Position point number one, for those of you guys who know a little bit about melt and about the foot positions, we're right at the center of the foot, giving the nervous system a moment to adapt to the pressure. We're going to maintain our pressure once we feel we can find tolerable compression. Then we're just going to go ahead and move our joints around for a second, just allowing the nervous system again to pick up where's the center of gravity in relationship to that one point of my foot. Come on back up top. We're going to take the foot that does not have the ball, slide it behind you, move that ball back towards your heel about 1/2 of an inch, so just a little bit closer to your heel. Go ahead and compress that point. This one region of your foot has a lot of relationship to the pelvis, so notice what you feel here. Decompress, do that one more time. Gentle compression. And then we're going to make a 50-50 body weight, and we're going to go for our gliding. So just a little glide back and forth just in front of our heel, nice and easy. And once you get your compression going, I want you to take that ball all the way to the back of your heel, left to right. And then nice and slow, we're going to bring that ball left to right, right back to where we had it. And then right in front of your heel, we're going to compress the ball, and that's where we're going to create our shear. So watch what I'm doing here. I'm going to go ahead and see if maybe I can bring that camera in. No, not quite tonight. Maybe. And then we're going to pause and wait. Give the tissue a moment to adapt. We're not going to rinse yet. Go to the other side. So same thing. We're going to put that ball at the center of our foot, feet side by side. So now I'm over onto my opposite foot, and nice and slow, I'm just going to hold there, right? Nice and easy. Shifting back and forth, back and forth. Same thing. Find an area that you feel you can tolerate. Move your body around a little bit. Doesn't matter how you move, just give your nervous system a second to adapt to the compression. Let it figure out where your joints are in relationship to that one point on your foot. Take your opposite foot, you're going to step backward. We're going to bring that ball back in your foot just a little bit and go ahead and create a little bit of compression just in front of your heel. Again, notice if it's tender. You guys who have hip issues, this is oftentimes a really tender spot. Decompress. Do it one more time. Compress. And then take half of your body weight off, and again, we're going to create the gliding. Right, so remember the secret of gliding, those of you who are kind of new to melt. Gliding is a preparatory technique. It's also a way to investigate tissue. And the secret of it is staying consistent in your pressure. So once the pressure is constant, go ahead and just glide the ball a little bit back and forth, all the way to the back of your heel. Nice and slow, you'll work it back. Bring that ball just in front of your heel again, pin the skin, and create your shear. And then same thing. Once you've created that shear effect, compress and wait. Just take a nice focused breath to that exact area that you're compressing. Take your pressure off the ball. Let's go back to the other foot and let's go to our rinse. So you're going to start at the ball of your big toe, soften your knee, and you're just going to push that ball from your forefoot to your heel. A lot of people have trouble with rinsing, whether it's on the foot or using the roller. What you're looking for here is consistent pressure in one direction. So if you kind of think about pressing into the ball, starting the foot motion, and then allowing your body to come with you, the goal here is to just not put pressure on your back or that back leg, almost like as if you're walking forward as you rinse. Try that same technique on the other side. Again, pushing where your knuckles are, and then nice and slow rinsing down the foot. And what we didn't do tonight was position point pressing over all of the points. But if you pause on any of the knuckles, that is position point pressing, right? I'm mobilizing that joint, and then I rinse through, right? So just give that a shot, rinsing through. 2 more. And 1 more time. Last technique is friction. Whichever foot you want to start on, nice and light, we'll just create a little bit of friction onto the bottom of the foot. This is a nice, easy way to stimulate the blood flow from your fascial system into your lymphatic system. Swap sides. So the interstitial fluids of fascia are being driven into the lymphatic system. So nice way to actually even give yourself a little immune boost, melting your hands and feet. Let's try it 1 more time on each side, balancing, creating a little friction. Nice breaths in and out. And then 1 more time on the other side. Nice breath in and out. Okay, so go ahead and set that ball aside. Really quick, let's go ahead and do a quick forward bend assess. Let's just see if melting our fate changes anything in your ability to forward bend. Notice if the pull is more seamless, or if there's less of that tension in the back of your legs, or if you feel like you can reach down a little further. Just notice what you have here. Okay, take your time and round yourself on up, and we're gonna start with a move that I love to do. Is called a monster side step. So you are gonna need your resistance band for this one. So go ahead and grab your resistance band, and you're gonna use it kind of looking like a jump rope. So you're gonna hold either side when you start, Good, okay. And then we're gonna go ahead and set the band down in front of us. And my band has a logo on it, so I'm just gonna put my feet on either side of that logo. So I have maybe 2 inches between my feet. Okay, once you've got that, you'll crisscross your band. And if you want, you can kind of make little loose handles, but what you want is the band right around your knee. That's about how much band you're grabbing. And I kind of keep my thumb and index finger open. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that band up. I'm gonna hook my thumb and index finger around my hips, kind of to really kind of sense where my hips are. I'm gonna soften my knees, and just for a second here, I'm gonna kind of lift my foot and sort of sickle the side of my foot so that I'm giving myself tension on the inside of the band between my feet. It's not so much what's going on the outside, okay? So this pull is as necessary as what's going on inside the feet, okay? So now look, hands are gonna stay at your pelvis. Pay attention to your hips staying level. So I always talk about a 4-point square. I don't want to create any side bending when I do this, so my waistline to my rib cage has to stay the same, all right? So now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to push on one foot. So I'm going to start by pushing on my left foot, and I'm going to decompress the weight of my right foot from the floor. So you can see my foot's just barely off of the ground. I'm going to push on that band just a little bit and see if I can hold my posture. Notice how much you've listed, tipped, or side bent over to the leg that you're standing on. And then go ahead and set that foot down to the ground. Come back to a center spot. Again, keep your knees soft. Don't hyperextend your knee. Again, pushing the band, lifting up your opposite foot. And again, just pushing against the band, seeing if you can hold yourself in that balanced state. Let's try that one more time on each side. So again, standing on my left foot, I'm going to lift my right foot off the ground. I'm going to hold myself here. I'm going to pause. I'm going to set my foot down. I'm going to lift my other foot up. And same thing, I'm going to push my foot and I'm going to hold. Beautiful. Come on back to center. Okay, so now this time we're going to go ahead and balance on our left foot, lift our right foot up, and now we're going to just stay in the same spot and tap the toe out, and then tap the toe back in. Tap the toe out. Tap the toe in. Notice that I'm not shifting my body over to that side. I'm trying to maintain my stance on this one foot. Tapping out, tapping in. Let's go one more time, tapping out. Hold it there, and go ahead and set your weight there. Let's try it on the other side. So again, keeping your knee from hyperextending, lift your foot, tap the toe out, bring the foot back in. Tapping out, tapping in. 2 more times. Pay attention, if your knee was a headlight, it's straight ahead, so don't let that knee turn in. Tap out, tap in. 1 more time, again, you're gonna tap out and you're gonna hold it there, and go ahead and balance yourself back to center. Okay, so here comes the monster side step. Standing on your left leg, you're gonna lift your right foot up, and you're gonna kind of on a diagonal step forward with the foot, step forward with your feet, step forward, and then come back to center. And then same thing on the way back, it's a diagonal push. Back, 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 and back. So again, your feet are staying the same width apart. Let's try it one more time. Stepping, stepping, heel to toe, heel to toe, heel to toe, and then we're going to slide it back. Pushing, 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 and pushing. Last big step tap to the side 1, step tap 2, step tap 3, 1 more time, and let it go. Now listen, if you've done that one right, you'll know it, because all of the work is right where we did our compression when we were on our side hip. So if you're feeling all of the work up into this upper outer part of your hip, you are in the right pathway. If my friend Pam or anybody else out there who has hip issues is feeling it all in the front of the hip, that's a muscle called TFL, tensor fasciae lata, and oftentimes that one is the culprit to hip pain. It's not psoas. I think sometimes our psoas is exhausted for us blaming it for every problem that we have, and it may or may not be its problem at all. Okay, so we're gonna do another move called the hover and lunge. This one is one of my favorites, a little bit of a unique move. So we're gonna step forward. I'm gonna bring my right foot forward and my left shin onto the top of the roller. So let's see if you guys can get yourself into this position. Now, once you're here, pay attention to what you feel. In this position, notice that your right hip might feel high and your left hip might feel low. Let's see if I can even maybe bring this camera in a little bit, right? So take a look here, right? So my hip might feel like it's real high on this side and real low on the leg that's behind. See if you can adjust this. Send your right hip down, and here's the thing. Think about sending your right hip back, and your left hip is going to aim towards your right knee. So it's almost as if you're dropping your right hip down and back so that that left hip can kind of draw forward. All right, so now once you're there, here's our position. You're going to lean your body forward just by a little bit. So the back leg is not going to have the weight, right? So notice where your body weight is. Push into your forward leg, and again, think of this right hip being sent down, and just push into your foot. Pause here for a second and see if you can find your hip and even a little bit of your inner thigh holding you in place, and then ease that back. So I'm not lifting my body up yet. I'm just going to push weight into my forward foot and then ease that back. You're going to do that 2 more times. So we're just going to push and then let it go. 1 more time, you're going to push. Now we're going to try our hover. Watch what I do. I push into my right foot and I hover my back knee off of the roller, and then I come right back down. Let's try that again. You're going to push forward as you come up and then come down. Keep thinking. As I go forward, my right hip goes down, my left knee floats. I let that go. You only have to do it 1 more time. Right hip down, hover over the roller. So now we're going to go into a lunge pose. So you're going to push into your right foot, and you're going to push and get your body into that forward lunge. And then nice and slow, start to bend your back knee and slowly come back down. Let's try it again. Push forward and come up, extending that back leg. Nice and slow coming back down. 2 more. Push to come up. Nice and slow coming back down. 1 more time. Push to come up. Nice and slow going down. Let's go 4 for the pattern. No pause. You're just going to push up and come down. Push, down, 2. And on this last one, let's see if you guys can push yourself all the way up to standing and see if you can balance on one leg. And then go ahead and release it all the way down. Let's try it on the other foot. This time I'm going to turn to the side so you can see this from a side view. Sometimes it's a little easier to see. So on this one, again, my left foot's going to go forward. My right shin is going to come down onto the top of the roller. Now again, the setup is key here, right? So as soon as I'm here, I want to notice my left hip is going to feel hiked up. So I have to shift. I have to think about this. My left hip is going to come down, right? I'm going to open up the front of the hip a little bit. Something also to think about. If I told you right now to tuck your pelvis, you should feel a pull on the back of your right thigh. That's not what we're looking for. Instead, I want to lean my body forward a little bit so that I take the weight off of my back leg. The weight is on my front leg. Again, left hip down, right hip feels forward. Again, the first thing I'm going to do is just try to push weight into my left foot, which might be really weird for some of us to do because we've got some weakness in this line. And then I'm going to ease that pressure off. So again, I'm going to push. I'm not hovering. I'm just finding the left hip down and engagement on my foot. Think about the ball of your left big toe. Push into it. So now we have the hover. Again, watch what I do. I hover, and then I come right back down. So small, right? So again, my left hip goes down to get my right knee to come up, and then I release. My left hip goes down, and then I release. 1 more time. Left hip down, I hover. And then I come down. Now we're going to try that lunge, okay? So here we go. We're going to push. Look at how my back leg goes straight, but my front knee is still bent. Nice and slow, we come on back home. Let's do that 3 more times. Push to lunge. Nice and slow, come on down. 2 more times. Push to lunge. Nice and slow, come down. Nice and controlled. 1 more time. Push. And then nice and slow, come on down. 4 for the pattern. Here we go. We're going to push. 1. Coming down, push 2, down, push 3, and on this last one, again, we're going to push and try to bring our body up into a balanced pose, and then release it all the way down. How did you guys do? Who are live? I have some thumbs up. I have some a little not sure. That one's a tough one to do. Let's see if we can add one more standing move called a plie squat. On a plie, I like using my roller as a little bit of a guideline. So I put the roller out ahead of me, and I'm going to start kind of like when we did our SI joint shearing and gliding. I said, hey, when you lean back, your hands are as wide as the roller. Well, here, I'm going to take my big toe about as wide as the outside of my roller. I'm going to put my foot down, and then I'm going to try to step my other foot just as wide. So take a look at how I'm not like a ballerina with my feet perfectly sideways. My toes are kind of radiating towards where the corners of my room meet the wall. Okay, so once I'm here, pay attention again. Ball of the big toes, really important on a plie. You're going to come on down into a squat. Now, stop here for a second. Take a look at your knees in relationship to your toes on either side. Feel free to adjust your footing so you're kind of convincing yourselves your knees are going in the same direction as your feet. Once you're here, I want you to grab onto your thigh and you're going to grab the flesh, kind of like we did on back thigh shear, and you're going to twist and roll that tissue back all the way up to your hip crease. And then I want you to do the same thing on the other side. Twist and grab it. Twist and grab, twist and grab, twist and grab, and then take the heel of your hand right at the crease of the hip and think about pushing the tissue down and away from your hip bone. Once you're here, go ahead and relax your shoulders and try to come down a little bit more. Now think body is upright, I'm not leaning forward. Idea more than a thing, focus more onto the outsides of your feet. Your hips should be burning. I want you to think about pushing the ground away from you. Think about pushing outward as you start to stand up. Don't lock out your knees when you come here. As we come down, I almost want you to imagine that your thighs are like corkscrews. They are spiraling backward. You're maintaining pressure on the outside of your foot. Again, you're pushing outward as you come up into the footing. 2 more times, nice and slow. If your heart rate feels like it's increasing, excellent. This will definitely help with our rooted core. We are in the inner thigh and the lateral hip at the same time. Pushing as we come on back up. 1 more time, nice and slow. Think of those knees tracking over the toes. We're spiraling. We're almost pushing our thighs backwards to hold there. And then nice and slow, we return back up. Let's go 4 for the pattern. Nice and slow, no pausing. We come down and lift up. 3 more. Think of the energy of your feet consistently pushing outward. 2 more times, down and lift. 1 more time, we're gonna stay down here for a second. Give me 1 more inch lower, half up, half down, half up, half down. Keep thinking outside of the foot, half up, half down, hold it there, go down 1 more inch, and then slowly returning it all the way back up. Now listen, if you're feeling a ton of that work into this upper region of your hip and into the lateral hip, you're in the right pathway. If you're feeling it in your knees or the lower part of your quads, it's a poor pathway. That's part of the spiral that we're trying to avoid on this particular move. Just notice if you feel it, that one takes practice. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take a step away from our lower body. We're gonna work on our upper body with a move called standing arm fans. This setup might seem really weird to do, but it really helps with the angle of the band. So you're gonna grab your resistance band, and I'm even gonna see if I can zoom this one in so you can really see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm gonna take my band, I'm gonna bring it right to the front of my hips, and before I wrap it around me, I'm gonna pull the band. And then I'm gonna land it onto the front of my pubic bone. I'm gonna wrap the band around the bottom of my butt. So I just bend my knees. In the most unattractive way, I've created kind of like a saddle for my caboose, and then I bring the band back around me, and I should actually have quite a bit of band if I've caused tension when I started, and this is also gonna give me the opportunity to almost sink back and sit back into the band. Okay, so once you're here, you're gonna crisscross your band. Right hand's gonna hold the left band, left hand's gonna hold the right, so you're making an X marks the spot ahead of you. All right, and once we're here, again, watch what I do. I kind of sit back into this, pull the right band, pull the left band, and hold your arms kind of like as if I were to come over to you and give you a whole bunch of rollers and hold a whole bunch of rollers in your arms, okay? You're pulling tension, I'm pulling tension, and I'm holding here. Think here for a minute. Cheekbones are over your collarbones, your ears are over your shoulders. You're gonna punch your arms forward, keep the tension on the band, let your elbows float behind you. That's not where we're gonna be when we do the movement. Try it 3 times. Punching forward, pulling back, punch forward, keep the tension on the band the whole time, and on this last one, you're gonna punch the arms forward, but then we're gonna bend the elbows, but we're not gonna let the elbows float behind us. Take a look at where my arms are. Right hand is pulling the left band, left hand's pulling the right. I'm gonna hold my position here with my arms, and I'm gonna let my elbows float up, and then I'm gonna let my elbows float back together. If you look down at the X marks the spot of your band, it is not changing at all. 2 more times. Pulling and lifting the elbows up, keeping the tension constant on the band as my elbows go in. 1 more time, floating up, and then bringing it in. Now, keep the elbows inward, and let's create external rotation. Take a look, my elbows are still ahead of me, they haven't shifted back, and then come back to neutral. external rotation, back to neutral. If you're doing it right, when you create your external rotation, the X marks the spot's going to move towards you, and then you return. One more time, external rotation, back to neutral. This time you're going to create your external rotation, hold it there, you're going to pull on the band, you're going to bring it in, you're going to pull, you're going to bring it in. 2 more times, pull, bring it in. 1 more time, pull, and release it all of the way down. I know that that one is a tough one. If you've done it right, you get a lot of work in your shoulders. You might be sweating a bit. Good indication that you've done it right. Let's go ahead and grab our band for one more move. I'm just going to back this out a little bit, and we're going to do our shoulder floats. So go ahead and bring your band down onto the floor so that it's coming out on one arm. I'm going to be doing this on my right hand. Hopefully that is what you see. We're going to go ahead and stand on the band. And once we're here, before we do this move, we're going to do a little test run. But first, you're going to take the opposite arm, you're going to grab onto the top of the band, and then the arm that we're going to be working on, wherever your natural arm reach is, that's how much band I want you to grab. And then from here, you're just going to fold up the band into a nice loose handle. Okay, so before we actually do this technique, let's just get something straight. Your glenohumeral joint, that is this joint right here, I'm even going to come up a little closer on this one too. If I were to take my hand right at my side and really slowly start to move my arm directly to my side, I don't even have to go up that far. I start feeling this weird pull in my arm. Try it with me. So just a little bit of tiny movement. Notice that weird pull that starts to occur somewhere low, right? Almost like a weird tension. Okay, so now instead of having your arm directly to your side, put your arm in front of you a little bit and do that same movement. And notice how you don't feel that tensional pull. That's because when our arm is directly at our side, we actually put a lot of compression at what's called our acromioclavicular joint, and there's a lot of nerves that branch out of there. So we don't want to impinge that by having our arm come directly out at our side. Our movement's going to be out ahead of us. So you're going to take the band, and we're going to just bring the arm ahead of us by a little bit. I like starting with my hands together. Just when I begin, it's just an easy place to start. And then nice and slow, I'm going to take this band and I'm going to pull just halfway up. So I'm not coming to parallel or anything. I'm just bringing my arm slightly out from my side. Check in here. If you're feeling a lot of tension in your forearm, stop doing it. Try to reset and lift again. We're looking for the tension to occur at the shoulder and then nice and slow come down. I always think of my elbow like an eyeball. So as I lift my arm halfway up to 90, my elbow's kind of pointing to the back of the room. And then we're going to go ahead and bring the arm back down. 2 more times. We're just going to bring the arm part of the way up. And then we're going to bring it back down. And 1 more time, we're going to pull the arm up. If you have any issues with this one, that's as far as you want to go. But if that feels okay to you, you're going to bring the arm up, and this time we're going to try to go to 90 degrees. And then same thing, we're going to bring it back down. We're going to come just up to 90, no movement in the torso, and then bring it back down. 2 more times. So again, seeing if we can motor coordinate the movement from the glenohumeral joint. 1 more time, bringing the arm up. And then bringing it back down. Now watch, I'm going to shift to my opposite foot. I'm going to do that same movement, but now I'm going to push into my foot as I come across the body. Bringing my arms together, I'm going to push my arm out to the side, just to 90 degrees. Bringing it back to center, pushing out. 1 more time, center, and push out. So now we're going to go for a pattern. Same range, no pausing. Just let the arm shift and move, back to center, lift and pull, back to center. 2 to go. Lifting, back to center. 1 more time, lifting, back to center. Now look, grab the band in your opposite hand and keep that movement going. And now I almost want you to feel like you're pushing the earth down. You're pushing the air, you're pulling. You're pushing, you're pulling. 1 more time, pushing, and then lift. Hold here, and almost like you have a helium balloon in your arm. I just want you to let the arm float in front of you. And then nice and slow, float it back. Do it again, floating it forward. And then floating it back. Let's do that 1 more time. Float it forward. And then float it back. Your arm should be burning on fire. Hold it here. You're going to let the arm release by bringing your elbow behind you. And then just let the arm reach out. Pull it behind you. Reach it out. Pull it behind you. Reach it out 1 more time. Pull and reach and relax it all the way down. Again, if you've done this right, you should feel a ton of work has happened right around the capsule of the shoulder. If you're feeling it in your neck or your forearm, again, wrong pathway. Oftentimes our biceps are so locked short from all of the weird positions, our glenohumeral joints not in a great position, so we end up compensating with some of the larger muscle movers. So just notice what you feel. Let's try it on the other side. So you're going to take your band down onto the floor. And again, wherever the band is, it doesn't matter. And because we're using a resistance band, again, we're going to be pretty precise. You're going to stand on the band. You're going to lift the band up. Opposite hand's going to grab the top of it. Square off your shoulders. And again, wherever the length of your arm is, grab the band and then just fold the band up into a nice loose handle. Okay? So again, I can bring my arms out ahead of me just by a little bit, and I'm just going to move that arm just about 45 degrees. I want to check in this degree of range at what happens. Where do I feel the work? If I feel it in my forearm, I know I have a natural faulty pattern. The only muscle that ideally holds my arm here is a muscle called supraspinatus. So I'm going to try that 4 times. I'm going to lift my arm up, bringing my arm back in, lifting it up, bringing it back in. Again, my arm's just slightly out ahead of me. I'm avoiding any unnecessary compression. My elbow's like an eyeball pointing behind me. Now, if everything's okay to that range, again, I'm going to keep my body still. I'm just going to bring my arm up to 90. And then I'm going to bring it back down. Bringing it up to 90. Bringing it back down. Notice your elbow, right? So my elbow is straight, but it's soft, right? So I'm not hyperextending. Again, lifting. Bringing it down. One more time. We're going to lift. And this time as our arm comes down, we're going to shift to the opposite leg. And then we're going to push into the foot and lift the arm up. So here we can reintegrate some of the timing by almost tricking our mind into something called the serape effect, activating muscles far beyond where I'm working to see if I can incorporate this movement more dynamically through the body. One more time. So now we're going to lose the pause up here. And we're just going to go for it. You're going to shift, lift 4, shift, lift 3, shift, lift 2, and one more time, lift 1. Now again, get rid of the band and go ahead and move the arm the same way. So your nervous system actually does not know that you've dropped the band. And if we've activated the stabilizers of the shoulder, your arm will start to burn on fire with no band at all. Again, just trying to improve the stabilization mechanisms of the body. Hold the arm up, and again, like you have a helium balloon, I kind of let my hand sort of float up, float down in front of me, float up, float down to the side, float forward, float back. One last time, float forward, and then float back. And again, to release the head of the capsule of your shoulder, let the elbow kind of pull behind you, push forward, pull back, forward, in, forward, and one more time, and push and release it all of the way down. Okay, so now here's an interesting thing, right? We've actually worked on our hips, our shoulder girdle. Now what we want to do is our forward bend assess. So again, put your feet hip distance apart and nice and slowly round your body on down. And again, notice, do you feel like you can fold more? Do you feel like you have more range of motion? Do you feel more equation in the tension from your heel all the way up to your hip? Does it feel more equal from top to bottom instead of feeling so segmented? Notice the difference here. And then take your time and round your body all of the way on up. So if you've made a change in your forward bend, stop and think about that. You just activated a bunch of muscles. Why would you gain more range of motion? The more stable our pelvis and our shoulder girdle is, the more dynamic movement you'll get in your spine. Makes sense when you think about it. Come on down to the ground with me. Hopefully everybody's doing all right out there. And because we did some of those more dynamic movements, let's go ahead and do a little bit of hydration in our upper back. There's just no reason that we shouldn't do this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and bring my torso against the roller. Bottom of my shoulder blades are going to be on my side of the roller. Let's see if I can bring my little zoom in here. Let's see if it sees me. Isn't that so cool? It's just awesome. Okay, so the bottom of my shoulder blade is on the body side of the roller. I'm going to tuck my pelvis, bring my hands behind my head, and I'm going to go into a rib length. We're actually going to try a few things tonight. I'm going to extend my torso, take a breath in. On the exhale, I'm going to come back to flexion. I'm going to do that one more time in that spot, extending my torso over the roller. And then I'm going to come back up to flexion. Now listen, just lift your butt cheeks up, slide your butt cheeks towards your heels just a touch more, and do your rib length again. So we're just going up onto a slightly different bone. And just notice which region of your thoracic spine, try it a few times, do you feel like you can extend over. And then side bend your ribs to the right, breathing into the left side of your body. And then coming back to the midline, take a breath in, and on an exhale, side bend to the left, breathing into the right side of your body. And then coming back to the center. Side bend right and left a couple of times. Again, just regaining some length after doing some of those shoulder girdle movements. Always great to open up the rib cage. And then come on back to the center. Now, last week we tried this. We're going to try this again. You're going to take your hands onto your thighs. Use your core. Your pelvis is going to be in a tuck here. See if you can keep your feet on the ground and roll yourself up. How did that go? Hopefully that was all right. Okay, so go ahead and take your roller underneath the back of your thighs, and without your hands, can you roll yourself down nice and slowly all the way on down to your back? Once you're here, bend your knees, lift up your hips, bring that roller underneath the back of your pelvis, and let's go ahead and bring our knees into our chest once we get here. How do you know you have the roller in a solid place at the back of the pelvis? If I bring my knees all the way into my chest with my hips on the roller, that roller is not going to slide out from underneath me. So I've got the roller high enough so that I can curl my knees into my chest, but here's the more important thing. As I move my knees away from my body, I do not want to feel like that roller has got my low back on it, right? So my low back is free of the roller. I feel like the wide surface of the back of my hips are on the roller. Once I'm here, I'm going to get precise tonight. I always like to slide the top of my hands underneath my hips, so I kind of slide my knuckles underneath the outer part of my hips to stop me from going too far. I'm going to tip my knees over to the left side. I'm going to start by creating small circles with both of my legs. If you're new to Melt, you'll hear me in a lot of videos talk about differentiation. And what I mean by that is don't isolate, right? Differentiate. Find your core, focus on what's staying stable as you try to move your legs. Don't let your ribs come with you. And if you find that's troublesome for you, keep your right leg still and just make circles with your left leg. And if your knuckles are kind of tucked underneath the back of your hip, that might actually feel really nice to kind of push your knuckles up into the lateral border of the hip and actually use your hand as a shearing device on that lateral hip. One more way to do a shear, you can bring your legs back together and you could just gently march your knees a little forward and back, keeping your core engaged. And then same thing, we're just going to pause here for a moment. Just give the tissue a moment to adapt. Same thing if your knuckles are here, go ahead and tip your knees over to the opposite side. Again, use your core and create small circles, both of the legs. Now, it doesn't matter which way you're making your circles. Try it both ways. Whatever way your brain thinks the circle should go, confuse it. Go the other way, right? Give your nervous system new patterns to work with. Now, again, I could also tip my knees over to that side and I could create circles with just the one leg that I'm leaning toward. Or I could bring my legs back together and really gently I could march my knees forward and back. All right, so I always give you guys multiple options when you're in these types of positions. Let's go ahead and pause here for a moment. Take a nice focused breath. And then bring your legs back to center and set your feet on down to the ground. And we're going to use another assessment called the tuck and tilt. This is a modified tuck and tilt challenge with your feet on the floor. Pelvis, make sure that it's still on a nice comfortable spot onto your roller. And you're going to try to tuck your pelvis so that your pubic bone curls towards your nose. And then without letting your ribs come with you, you're going to just try to untuck your pelvis. Think about the back of the pelvis sinking to the top of the roller. Here's a quick pro tip. Your feet are light. Tuck your pelvis, tilt your pelvis. Tuck your pelvis, and tilt your pelvis. One more time. Tuck your pelvis, and tilt your pelvis. Okay, so let's do a bent knee press. You're going to go ahead and tuck your pelvis, pubic bones curling towards your nose, your low back's gotten long. Find the ball of your big toe, the outside of your foot, and your heel on your right foot on the ground. I want you to really feel a nice firm footing of the right foot, and then start to tuck your pelvis. Okay, so if you get a hamstring cramp, we know that we've got some work to do on the front thigh. And again, you have hip issues, front thigh is always a culprit. So I'm going to interlace my hands over the front of my shin. I could also be behind the back of my thigh, whichever one's better for you. And what we're looking for is two directional lengthening. So what I'm doing is I'm energizing my right knee over my toes as I'm using my left leg to help my body tuck the pelvis. Now, once you're in this position, key into our 4-point square I mentioned before. Your left waistline is not squishing. You want to try to keep your pelvis level as you create this. Be precise on fascial tension. Okay, let's try that on the other side. So your left foot's going to come on down to the ground. Same thing, think about it. Ball of the big toe, outside of the foot, the heel, really finesse the foot to the ground. Again, grabbing onto the front of the shin or the back of the thigh, you're going to energize your knee over your toes as you tuck your opposite leg towards your nose. Again, I'm energizing, I'm thinking my knee is going forward. I'm creating fascial tension by using muscles in the position. And then go ahead and let that go. Let's take that right ankle. You're going to cross it over the left side. We're going to do a figure 4. Now listen again, this is important. Your figure 4 has to keep your 4-point square, your hip to your ribs equal. Your body is going to want to side bend in this pose. So really think about it. Try to fix your waistline, use your core, bring your legs towards your chest. Now let's go for a muscle stretch because we always like what a muscle stretch feels like. If I bring my legs into my chest, I'm going to feel a nice stretch onto the back of my booty. Hopefully everybody's feeling that. I love that, but that's not what we want to do. We want to hydrate the front of the hip. So to do this, you're going to take your left hand and either grab onto the sole of your right foot, or you're going to put your left hand behind the back of your left thigh. You pick whichever one's easier for you to reach for. Right hand's in front of the right leg. You're going to go ahead and push your legs away from you until your left thigh feels like it's posting perpendicular to your roller, no more. And now listen, this is 3 things happening at the same time. You are pushing your right thigh up and away from the front of your hip. You're using your left leg to press into your right ankle, so equaling out that. And now listen, tilt your pelvis back atop the roller. That's not an invitation for your chest to now project to the ceiling. You're just creating a little bit of a low back curve, pulling the legs. Inhale, ease back some of that intention. And then try it again. Equal push, equal pull. So you're pressing the left thigh into the right ankle, pushing the right thigh up and away, and again, actively participating in tilting. Really think about it. If you're doing that right, you're going to feel a different type of a pull around the hip, and then go ahead and let that go. Let's try it on the other side. So again, bring your legs back down. Take the left ankle over the right thigh. Another important tip on this one, keep your ankle flexed on that left leg. Check in with your 4-point square before you go anywhere. Use your core. Bring the leg on up. Now again, the right heel is going to stay relaxed to the right buttock, right? So I don't want to get my quadricep too up in a huff making this movement. Okay, so again, once I bring my legs all the way in, if you're doing this right, you get a muscle stretch on the back of your left hip. Just notice it. Okay, now what we want to do is hydrate the actual hip joint. So my friend Pam, who's here, this one's for you. Okay, so again, grab onto the sole of your left foot or behind the back of your right thigh, whichever you want to do. Okay, and again, I'm going to move my legs away from me just until my right thigh looks like it's posting perpendicular to my roller. Don't go any further than that. Okay, so now here we go. We're going to push the right thigh into the left ankle, push the left thigh up and out of the socket. Think about it. You're pushing up and away, up. And then once you've got that equal tension, then you're going to tilt your pelvis back atop the roller, creating a subtle low back curve. Hold that push-pull. Inhale, ease back the tension. And on the exhale, try it one more time. Push-pull, tilting the pelvis. And then go ahead and let that go. Check in with your roller. Make sure that that roller hasn't gone anywhere. If you need to cinch it back up or lift up your hips for a moment. Bring both legs towards your body. You're going to put both hands in front of both thighs, and this time your arms are going to be straight. Again, thighs are about perpendicular. Gently is the cue here. Gently press your thighs into your hands. See if you can find psoas engaging. You'll feel a little hug in your torso. That is not your abdominal muscles. It's a rooted core muscle. It's part of the rooted core. I'm going to take a breath in. I'm going to exhale, press my thighs to my hands, create a subtle tuck. Take another sip of air. And on the exhale, find a tilt. 2 more times. Exhale and tuck. Take another breath in. Exhale and tilt. 1 more time. Exhale and tuck. And 1 more time. exhale and tilt. Now listen, keep the tilt. Take a nice breath in. On an exhale, make a firm SH sound. Shh, and gently press your thighs to your hands, find your tilt, and sink the mid-rib wall. All three at the same time as you go to the full exhale. And then we'll inhale, ease back our intention to compress. And one more time, press your thighs to your hands, pelvis in a tilt to the top of the roller, make your SH sound, sink the back of the ribs, shh, find your core, shh, little low back decompress. Last move in this position, bring your knees into your chest, right leg comes up into the air like a drawbridge. We're gonna go ahead and let that right leg come on down. I wanna maintain a tuck in my pelvis, pubic bone curls to my nose. Arm comes up overhead. I'm going to lift my head, look to the left. I'm going to reach my right fingers away from my right toes once I'm here, taking a breath in. And on an exhale, I'm going to actively participate, sinking the back of my left and my right ribs down, my pelvis in a tuck. Check in with your 4-point square. And then let it go. Bring your knees into your chest. Same thing on the other side. Left leg comes on up like a drawbridge. Again, I'm going to let that leg come down. Remember that right leg is helping me maintain that tuck. Left arm's going to come overhead. Again, I kind of stop where my cheekbone and my upper arm are together. I lift my head. I look the opposite way. And then I reach my fingers away from my toes. I get long. Check in with your 4-point square though. And then again, I exhale. And I tuck and I think about sinking the back of my left and right ribs down. And then I bring my knee into my chest. Take your time, roll the roller out from underneath your pelvis, and let's lift the head up, and you're gonna take that roller right behind the base of your skull for just a really quick low neck release. So I'm gonna start right at the base of my skull. I'm gonna keep my nose slightly tipped up to the sky, and I'm gonna turn my head a little left-right. If I've got the roller in the right place, it's not going to slip into my neck, and it's also not going to slip out from underneath my head. Once I know I have the roller in the right place, I'm going to pin the skin, I'm going to get a little bit more organized, and I'm going to create little figure 8 motions with my head. I think of it like a backstroke. I'm going to hang out over on this right side, and on the right side, I'm going to create a couple of small circles over here. I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm going to slightly turn my head over to the left side. Same thing, I'm going to create some small circles, maybe some subtle head turns. Same thing, I'm just going to pause there for a moment. I'm going to come on back to the middle. Same thing, I'm going to create those little figure 8s one more time. And then same thing, I'm going to pause. Grabbing onto the roller, I'm going to lift my head. I'm going to push the roller a little bit more to the center of the back of my head. Now to do a neck decompress, start with your nose tipped up like you're smelling something good in the air, and then line your head and the roller up so that it really feels like the center of the back of your head's on your roller. Take a breath in. On an exhale, we're going to go ahead and nod our nose down. Take a breath in. On an exhale, I'm going to lift my chin back up again. Keep your shoulders relaxed. Take another breath in. On an exhale, again, nodding your nose down. We're not losing the space in the front of the neck. We're getting long here, tractioning. Another breath in. On an exhale, lift your chin up. One more time, take a breath in. On an exhale, subtly nod your nose down. And one more time, take a breath in. And on the exhale, lift your chin on back up again. Okay, get rid of your roller, lie flat on your back, palms up, arms and legs extended. Let's reassess from what we started our session with today. So remember, I said, hey, if we've got a lot of accumulative stress along our spine, it can destabilize our neck and low back, and it really reduces the stability of our neural core, the mechanisms of the neural core. So if you started off feeling like all your back weight was on your shoulder blades, notice if your mid-ribs are more relaxed to the ground. Notice that the arch of the back feels open, but less tense, a little bit lower toward the pelvis rather than under the ribs. Notice if your butt cheeks are more weighted to the ground or the back of the thighs have settled down. Big one, if the back of the thighs have settled down, all that standing work, this is definitely a map for you to keep practicing. Divide yourself into your left-right half. Notice if you feel more balanced from left to right. The autopilot has a clear connection to the center of gravity. If we've hydrated that connective tissue and our sensory motor control is more available, you'll feel more balanced. Finally, turn your head left and right. Notice if you have better range, less pain, or if it's just easier for you to move your head from left to right. Bend your knees, roll yourself on your side, come on up to sitting. You know, we have a second here. Stand on up with me. And let's do our forward bend assess. And you might notice also just from doing that, if we round ourselves down, notice if you can come down a little bit further, if you feel better range, if you feel more of that dynamic tension against the full length of the back of your thigh. Take your time, round yourself on up. Make sure that you guys drink water. And those of you guys who are here with me live, I'll see you in our post-class chat. I'll see you soon. Thanks everybody for being part of the melt community. Sip water, and I'll see you all soon. Happy melting.